Oh boy, I'm feeling it. Yes, sir.
There we go, baby. This is what's up. No, this is exciting. I know last Sunday, we were able to do our live Hell in a Cell reactions. But now all four of us are bringing it to you live, and no, this is exciting. Now it's another chance, as you know, we've said before, we're stretching our legs and doing something fun. So no, this is exciting.
Noah, you definitely should change the YouTube one, the YouTube title, because it's got Saturday, and it's probably your Saturday stuff. Yes, I'm on. Really? Huh.
But we are live right now, guys, and
definitely.
We are coming to you live. Anybody and everybody listening out there when it comes to wrestling. We are the sauce. If pro wrestling wants a barbecue, you can count on us to bring the sauce.
Yes, sir.
We had an interesting week this week in regards to wrestling, whether it be AEW Dynamite or Halloween Havoc from NXT. We're still keeping it the same thing. We're talking about, each of us gets 5 minutes to talk about our respective shows that we tuned into this week, and then we just get to shoot the shit afterwards. It's just talk about anything that's been on our minds for this week in hot topics. So I don't know, who do we want to start with this week? We had Petey. I'll start with you, my man. We definitely had an interesting week in Raw and SmackDown, particularly SmackDown in regards to the Roman Reigns storyline. I don't know if you wanted to hit up on that at all a little bit, or if anything else caught your eye. You got the first seg of our first official. I mean, we kind of had one last week, but it's our real, with the four of us, it's our real first official live stream on Twitch.
We live! Ladies and gentlemen, Raw and SmackDown continue to top themselves in every way, shape, or form. Let me start with SmackDown. First of all, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso and Paul Heyman continue to top themselves. Just when you think there is a ceiling, there is a sky. Roman Reigns came out and said, "You can spin it any way you want. I told you I was going to make you quit. And what did you do? You quit. By the end of the night, you are going to fall in line." And what did he do? He beat Daniel Bryan, which is just a feather under the cap in and of itself. And then he beat the living hell out of Daniel Bryan for his cousin Roman Reigns. I want to see this at full force when Jimmy Uso comes back. I'm very excited to see what this stable can do as villains. And I said this at the, before we went on the air. I'm very happy for independent wrestler Sean Maluda. He's been working some AEW matches, but I feel like he definitely would have probably had some shine in this as well. I hate myself for saying this, but I was dead certain that Fox was going to want, being on a major network, was going to want nothing to do with the Mysterio Murphy love triangle, and sadly I was wrong. Give me a minute.
That's how we all feel about
dead
it.
Wrong.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It's that bad. Unfortunately, Aaliyah Mysterio has taken a lover. One thing I will say is Sasha Banks is now the SmackDown Women's Champion. I'm very excited about that. And quite frankly, next week she is going to be competing against Bayley in a rematch. I think she's going to win. I think she's going to retain a singles championship for the first time in her career. That's something I would honestly put on a pay-per-view. I don't like saying that a lot, but when you think about the way you could promote that, considering the fact that she's never done that, like you could put a lot of stock in the fact that she's never done that. The fact that she'd be going in with a lot of a chip on her shoulder. It's just to have it be a, for lack of a better term, throwaway match. Not how I'd do it.
No.
Raw, Retribution. Bleh. And I hate saying that because I love Mustafa Ali and I was excited when that was going on. However, I love Alexa Bliss and I love what they're doing with her. And we've been saying a lot about how, the new theme songs have been kind of hit or miss. The new version of her theme song is absolute fire.
Yes.
A big thing for me is that a theme song has to fit the character of the person. They nailed it. Def Rebel nailed it with this new version of her theme song. And I'm very anxious to see what happens with Randy Orton and The Fiend.
Yeah.
Am I sad about the fact that NXT isn't involved in Survivor Series? A little bit, but I think Orton and Roman are going to put on a good match. And also, when asked about why they're not involved, they had a genuinely good reason, and it's because of the COVID outbreaks. So I don't like if it's going to be because of that, then they're trying to do right, at least in some respects. Essentially, that's what I believe it was PW Insider. If I got the source wrong, definitely correct me, somebody, whether it be amongst y'all or in the chat. That's just what I remember off the top of my head. But so if it's as selfishly, I'd like to see it, but if they're trying to be safe, more power to them.
Yeah,
that's all I got, fellas.
All right, so yeah, Retribution. Do you see any way that they could salvage this, or them being involved at all in Survivor Series?
Nope, it's over. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. You can't. Here's the thing. I'm cool with a group losing to another group. I'm not cool with a group losing to Bobby Lashley.
Agreed.
If they were,
the timing couldn't have been worse.
Yeah. I mean, having a throwaway match on Hell in a Cell with Bobby Lashley and Slapjack, aka Shane Thorne, like I guess it's fine. But as long as that group, as long as Retribution gets their comeuppance that night, it makes sense. But they didn't. They let Bobby get away scot-free almost.
I guess Lashley once again is
then
being
one
the
night
dominator.
later they go and job to the fucking Hurt Business. So
right. So yeah, now we're seeing the Roman Empire truly
I feel
form.
like this is going to be.
So that's probably the best thing going on right now across both these brands. But I also wanted to get your thoughts on this, Pete. As you know, we are in November now, and that is known for a yearly WWE tradition, Survivor Series. But this time, it looks like it's only going to involve Raw and SmackDown. NXT has been put to the sidelines. Go figure. So I have to ask you, do you think that this year's Survivor Series will have a different delivery that will outdo last year's?
It depends on which match you're talking about. There's going to be a lot of one person that we were talking about, this particular content creator, hit up Just Alex on YouTube if you're not familiar with him. He's puts out a lot of good stuff. He was talking about if they really want people to be invested in it, they should throw some stakes out, like the particularly for the 5-on-5 matches. Have the winning teams get the last 5 spots in the Rumble. That's one example of something you could do. But I don't see it really. I mean, when you had the Survivor Series last year was honestly the best Survivor Series that they've had in a very long time. I don't know how they could follow it up, especially if NXT is not involved. Like I said, if they're trying to be safer, that's awesome. But at the same time, it's still something. It's still a void. It's going to be noticeable that NXT is not there. Also, there were certain matches that I assumed were going to be in there. I thought about this before Johnny Gargano won the NXT North American title. I was thinking to myself, Bobby Lashley, Damian Priest, and Sami Zayn in a triple threat match, like the North American, Intercontinental, and US. That match would be awesome. The build up to that would be so cool. First off, you got these two, powerhouses, hulking up to each other, and then you got the wily, conniving heel. And in my head, the one big thing that was in my mind was the idea of just to get his guard down MVP trying to get Damian Priest to join the Hurt Business. I wanted to see that so bad. But yeah, it depends on the match. Certain matches might deliver more than others.
Well, it's supposed to be, again, with the theme of WWE pay-per-views, the best of the best. So we're going to have champion versus champion action. And apparently Adam Pearce and Pat Buck, the guys in suits, are not our general managers, but our official coordinators of this show, too. So I honestly don't feel like there's any stakes going into the show. This honestly feels like just another Survivor Series of maybe highlight matches. And I don't feel like all of them are going to be highlights. You're going to go home and be like, wow, this was great. So I feel like this Survivor Series, as far as what it's supposed to stand for, down in the water. But yeah, there seems to be some pretty good matches coming up, even though some of them are repeats.
Example of outside of back in 2014, outside of what happened with Sting and Dolph Ziggler being the sole survivor, not a whole lot about that particular Survivor Series stuck out to me.
I honestly don't remember the rest of it.
I don't either.
Sorry.
It would be pretty interesting.
But that moment was so cool.
What would be pretty interesting is if the Dead Man made a appearance at this year's Survivor Series. I know that would be.
He's scheduled to be there.
Touching and heartwarming.
He's not scheduled to wrestle, but he's scheduled to be there.
30 years. 30 years. This man, the phenom, the legend, showed up and dominated and became champion and has become a foundational pillar of this company we now call World Wrestling and Entertainment. And now, 30 years later, he's at Survivor Series. What the heck are you going to do with him?
Right.
Piece of trivia. True or false? When The Undertaker debuted in Survivor Series 1990 as a part of the $1 Million Team, he was the sole survivor for his team. True or false?
I'll go with true on that one.
False.
I didn't think
he was eliminated by countout.
Look at the size of that ham hock.
I don't honestly. I think the opposing team won. I don't even remember who all was on the other team, but I do remember him getting into a brawl with somebody.
This was before, mind you, Paul Bearer was involved with The Undertaker. This was back when
Brother Richard
was the manager.
We want to hate him because of what he has done to behind the scenes, but I will always cherish Brother Love.
Bruce Pritchard.
I mean, to be fair, Bruce Pritchard feels overworked right now. Triple H was in charge of this week's SmackDown.
I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Wow. That's
say your prayer, fellas.
We don't. I would at one point want to get into WWE right now. We'll get into that a little bit later. Now let's talk about the fact that NXT basically had a Halloween special, Halloween Havoc, which was originally a WCW pay-per-view. And now that once again WWE is taking a WCW themed pay-per-view name and naming one of its NXT shows.
I'm sure you got views all the time. Go for it, man. Halloween Havoc.
So here we go. We have Johnny Gargano picking up a win over Damian Priest and becoming the new North American champion. Personally, I was a bit disappointed by this, but as I've said in the past, Damian Priest, I think, is this is a time where if he was going to lose the title against Johnny Gargano, it was because he is going to become a mainstream NXT talent. He's going to be pushed even more now toward. This did not hurt Priest in the slightest. A loss to Johnny Gargano did not hurt his character whatsoever. Did not hurt him whatsoever. He is going to be pushed even more now into the spotlight towards the NXT championship. Moving on from that, we had Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. Thank God it did not have the same result. Io Shirai once again won and retained the NXT Women's Championship. That I personally am thankful for. I'm thankful that they're giving Io Shirai the respect, not just the respect, but the attention that she deserves. They're giving her a significant title run, and they're not getting her anywhere near the main roster, which is I'm thankful for that. So that was awesome. I could go on and on about the women in NXT. Now, one thing I really wanted to focus on was the fucking match between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. Oh my God. this was more like a UFC fight amongst women than it was a WWE product wrestling match. It looked like they beat the holy hell out of each other, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And again, despite with not even with the result, it built Raquel Gonzalez up as a legit badass. They have plenty more to do with her, and they're going to continue to do so. And on top of that, Rhea Ripley again can be the face of the company for the future to come. Whether they keep her on NXT until Vince decides to get the bread idea to finally step down from WWE and hand the reins of everything over to Triple H and stuff.
Keep dreaming.
Until then, I'd say keep Rhea Ripley as far away from Vince McMahon as possible, because I think Vince again will have no idea what to do with her, and she'll get mid-carded. Anywho, let's keep her on NXT. She's, I think, in regards to the females on NXT, she's the leader. Even though she's not holding the championship, still the leader. But again, that match, I will put that match over. It was great, fantastic. And if you guys had any other thoughts, and I will also mention the match on NXT UK between Walter and Dragunov. Also, incredible slugfest. My God, as our good friend JR Jim Ross, who is a proud, not a sponsor of the sauce, but he's a proud advocate for barbecue sauce.
Buy the sauce, folks.
That was a slobber knocker. This is what this match was, and I was significantly content with both the match between Walter and Dragunov on NXT UK and the match between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez on the main flagship NXT. Any other thoughts that you guys had while I have a minute and a half left or plus to talk about NXT or NXT UK?
Well, I like the fact that you literally highlighted the closing match and the opening match, but you didn't highlight the circumstances surrounding them, because the theme around those matches was spin the wheel, make a deal. And both matches had similar principles, while in the end, one match literally fell back on history revisited as Candace Hardcore. She put her body into it, and even though she was dressed in stitches, I feel like she needed some afterwards after that incredible ladder fall. And I thought that Candice LeRae and Io Shirai was probably my favorite match of the night. Those two absolutely killed it. And of course, we have Poppy coming back too. But I want to ask you this. You talk about Raquel Gonzalez. You talk about Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley not having the championship, but being a locker room leader. What do you do what's your outlook of Rhea Ripley versus Candice LeRae as far as like locker room leaders? Because Candice LeRae, even in this heel, you can't take away the fact that now she really is showing what she's capable of in NXT and is delivering match after match after match classics. So who is really driving the women's division more in NXT, which is most likely the best women's division in wrestling? Is it Rhea Ripley or is it Candice LeRae?
I would say maybe leading in regards to amongst the women performers, I would probably say Candice, even though she's playing the bad guy on TV. Now, who's the most over with the fans and who the fans will get behind the quicker? Between the two, I would say Rhea. I'd say that the fans are more behind Rhea than they are Candice.
Considering that she's been involved on all three brands, led Survivor Series team last year to a victory. Okay, I get that.
That moment that will put her in, basically has immortalized Rhea Ripley as the over with the fans, is that moment right before pandemic hit. All the fans stormed the ring as she won the championship from Shayna Baszler and basically had a mosh pit in the middle of the NXT ring. It'll go down in history until the end of time. I would say, but I guess I would say amongst the women, among themselves, maybe. Here's the thing. Here's how we, as I guess spectators and fans and our reactionary, us with our platform, we're short-sighted because we're not back there. So we don't know who's the general and who's like basically a go-to person. I'll give you guys a reference point. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, when Undertaker was 80s and 90s, when Undertaker was becoming the dead man. Who was he referencing? Who was he going to get thoughts on his character? It wasn't Vince McMahon. It was one specific guy. It was Jake the Snake Roberts.
Correct.
And yes, he was regarded as the man in regards to insight on characters. You go to Jake. I don't know if it's either Candice or Rhea. I mean, they both have phenomenal independent experience outside of WWE. I would say Candice, as much as I love Rhea and I have a personal spot for Rhea, I would say Candice is better in the ring, technical wise, being able to be a better grappler, better like a better move set, being able to, and also her moves are more what's the word? She's able to adapt her move set to her character. So when she starts to become a heel, you can tell that she's playing the heel because she's not only getting her ass whooped, but she's also doing the cheap shots. We haven't seen that from Rhea on main flagship NXT. We have seen a heel Rhea before, if you can remember back all the way back to NXT UK when she became the very first NXT UK Women's Champion. She was a full blown heel.
Correct.
Basically getting basically yelling at the fans saying you're inferior to me. And I'm excited to see if that Rhea Ripley is still out there because if she gets hot, she could flip the switch and turn heel on us. And that would be pretty exciting to see because she's been the number one in the women for so long. But anyway,
all right.
Don't know if that answered the question. I would for me, it's hard to know who's leading the locker room backstage because we're not there.
That's fair.
But if I were to take a guess, I would say it would be Candice. Now, obviously, who's more over with the fans? It's Rhea.
All right, Jack, Pete, the floor is yours. Anything you want to talk about NXT UK? Go ahead and ask away.
I thought the biggest match this week was the Walter match. Walter versus Dragon. Is it Dragunov?
Dragunov.
Okay. Dragunov.
Ba Sing Ba. A match rivaled in history all across Europe, and those two.
I usually don't pay attention to it. I pay attention to a little bit of NXT UK, but I tuned in just to watch that match, and
So, Jack, you're saying that match on NXT UK blew everything on the main ship?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It was that good. It's just two men beating the holy hell out of each other.
That's big.
A championship.
I mean, Nigel McGuinness literally harkened it back to the strong style in New Japan Pro Wrestling of the Bruiser Brodies and other greats. And that match just told
they were not nice to each other. They were mean.
Physical story.
They were mean to one another, and it was a spectacle to behold.
And it was very verbal too. Too bad I can't understand what either man was saying.
Yep.
All right, Pete. Anything you want to say?
I'm with y'all on that. Walter and Ilya Dragunov definitely stole the week as far as NXT goes. Here's what I will say about NXT's as far as Halloween Havoc goes. I loved AEW's show, but I've been hearing a lot of the same thing when it came to the Wednesday night lineup that AEW doesn't need to put together a desperate gimmick theme show to beat them in the ratings and everything. Here's the thing. Why can't you just take the loss? They're so not used to losing that they don't know how to react to a loss. Both shows, in my opinion, were very, very good.
As always.
So why can't they just, take that's the thing, like they don't know how to take defeat. And maybe I'm just hearing Chris Jericho's voice in my head, because he, I'm thinking about that interview where they were just telling them to go ahead and move to another day. And he was very, very adamant about them doing it. This time they actually got a win. And maybe I'm hearing what Chris Jericho might say, and maybe he wouldn't say it. But at the same time, it's like all the fans right now are saying, it was only because it was a gimmick show. Maybe it was, but a win is a win.
The way I see it, people just have this notion that it's a Wednesday night war. They want to relive the 90s. I don't see it that way. But also, you're talking about Chris Jericho. This is the guy that knows how to work the business and is still on good terms with Vince McMahon. So whatever Jericho says, you can take that however you will. The bottom line is this. Business is business. At the end of the day, the show that garners the more viewership will be the show that is more memorable and more profitable. At the end of the day, for some people, business investors, and maybe Chris Jericho selling.
Yeah.
That's all that truly matters to us fans. Though we should just be happy we have a night where we get 2 great wrestling products every week. Whether or not you liked one more than the other for a certain match, certain segment, certain incident, certain theme, that's entirely your own personal opinion. But I'll just tell you all this. Every week, Wednesday night, the one night of the week, I look forward to the most in wrestling, Tuesday seconds.
Me personally, if I was going to have NXT move days, I wouldn't have it moved to Tuesdays. I'd have it moved to Thursdays. And it's because of the show that Jack has the utmost pleasure of reviewing, and that's Impact. Speaking of which, Jack, you ready for this?
Oh boy, am I ready for this.
The Bound for Glory 5. Your 5 minutes begin now.
So, recapping that off of Bound for Glory, we saw Rick Swann defeat Eric Young for the Impact World Championship, and we actually opened the show with a rerun of that match. Obviously, Rick Swann defends it. He's looking big. He's looking good. He took that time off and got big. But very impressive win from Rick Swann. Then we saw Tommy Dreamer defeat Brian Myers in a Hardcore Halloween match. This is one of those gimmick matches where it's like, oh, we have thumbtacks, but we also have candy corn, so we're in season. I feel like we don't need to be putting Tommy Dreamer over, honestly. We don't need to be putting an ECW legend over in Impact. We need to be, we should have put over Brian Myers. But I don't run the company. Who's to say that they have? Maybe they'll give him a world title shot. Tommy Dreamer. We'll see.
Scott D'Amore.
Then we had Triple XL defeating the Rascals. AC Romero looking very good. He's looking pretty good. He's moving. He looks like he's moving well.
He lost some weight, right?
Yeah, he says he lost over 100 pounds, which that's huge.
That's very impressive. Congrats to him.
Big. We saw Su Yung make an appearance tonight. Deonna Purrazzo is threatening legal action for, Su Yung returning. It's one of those dumb things where it's like, oh, I'm the heel. I have to be the superior heel. Here's this. I want my title back. I'm not going to wrestle you because I lost to you. I'm going to get it through legal action. I think that's a brilliant ploy, but it doesn't really work with Su Yung. I really don't think this meshes well with Su Yung at all. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with this.
I don't really think that works with any demonic.
It really doesn't. It doesn't. Like, what are you going to do? Bind them?
Like, who would try that on the Undertaker?
No one would. He'd look at you like you're dumb.
It depends on what Undertaker you're talking about. You talking about Phenom or American Badass?
Phenom.
Yeah, you take legal action against
Big
that.
Evil, I might try that, but you're still getting a choke slam.
The Phenom, you're not gonna take a lawyer against a so-called supernatural force.
You can't sue the dead.
Took everybody out. Anyway, continue.
You can't sue the dead.
I can't sue the dead.
I don't know if Paul Bearer had a law degree, but I mean,
the dead. Can't sue the dead. That sounds like a. It sounds like it's like an album name or like an alternative rock song. Can't sue the dead.
Don't give Impact any ideas.
That's the Undertaker dedicated album that Limp Bizkit was working on before they broke up.
Continuing on, I got 2 more segments to talk about. We had Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz finally pick up a win against Alicia Edwards and Jordan Grace. Now this is one of those things where it's like I got a dedicated tag team with 2 single stars, and we're probably going to move into a feud with Alicia Edwards and Jordan Grace, which doesn't make sense. I feel like they were looking to push Jordan Grace into the men's division, have her do intergender wrestling, but I guess they don't want a repeat of Tessa Blanchard, which I understand. I understand it, but it is what it is, I guess. I'm glad to see Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz finally pick up a dub. And then we move on to our main event of the evening, the Johnny Bravo and Rosemary wedding. Oh boy.
Oh my God.
We saw the Nasty Boys.
The best.
We saw Triple XL looking spiffy. We had Father James Mitchell letting us know that we are barely beloved. And then we end it with who killed Bravo? Who did it? Because we can't have a wrestling wedding that goes successfully. Never, never, never. And it's looking like there's going to be dissent between Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie. That's kind of what they're building to, unless we get a swerve out of nowhere. Who knows? Maybe Vince Russo's around. But that was Impact this week. Genuinely, I'd honestly just change the order of some of this. I do the wedding in the middle of the show, and I'd have your world championship match main event. That kind of just makes sense to me in a sense. Other than that, it was a fine show. It was kind of a cool off from Bound for Glory. So I think I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Well, honestly.
I like the fact you actually rate Impact. It shows me what you figure the quality of the product. While Impact Wrestling, I think, really is a underregarded product, especially.
I think it's a very underrated product. And did any of you guys watch it this week?
Of course, I watch it every week. I literally sometimes review it with my friends.
I saw bits and pieces.
You saw bits and pieces. What were your guys' thoughts on it this week? I'm genuinely curious what you guys thought.
I started off.
I personally, so the thing that caught my attention the most, obviously, was the ending, the death of Johnny Bravo, which I thought it was, to me, that seemed, I agree, like no wedding in wrestling history is to go successfully. You shouldn't have a successful marriage, and even if you do, they didn't even air the fake marriage between Edge and Vicky Guerrero. They just were married all of a sudden, and then they end up getting a divorce. Why? Because it wasn't a real marriage. So I don't know. I just thought like the ending of Tommy Dreamer, which I agree with Jack. You shouldn't be putting over a hardcore legend.
Although that Doomsday spot was pretty cool.
Right, exactly.
Pretty cool.
But the ending where like you see the dead guy and then it just cuts to the whole Darth Vader finding out Padme's dead by shouting no, or Luke finding out Darth Vader's his father. No, like it's just like that to me was just like straight cheese. Like I could have went to my refrigerator and I looked at my refrigerator and I saw a package of provolone, and it's not enough. This was so much fucking cheese.
Not enough sauce.
Well,
that's what we're here for, boys.
I mean, I'm not saying it was bad. I mean, like I'm saying,
it shouldn't have main evented the show. I don't think
WWE doesn't have the balls to write this kind of stuff. Doesn't have the balls to put this kind of.
Here's
stuff
the thing: they kind of don't need to. Impact kind of needs to have this kind of product, simply because they've kind of fallen out the last couple of years. They've kind of just been like pushed to the side. Oh, we got AEW. Oh, we got Ring of Honor. Oh, we have New Japan. How do they compete? They have to do this stuff, and it's been working. I've been interested in Impact again.
Right.
It's a different take versus what you see across WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor even, because I follow the Pure Tournament too. The way I see it is this. It also keeps Wrestle House alive as well, because Wrestle House was a different dynamic versus what you just get as far as in-ring action. This is another epilogue to the Wrestle House saga. Now we got a Clue / murder, whodunit, Knives Out, parody mystery. And everybody who said I got a bad feeling about this is a prime suspect. While I agree it should not have closed the show, it does give something for people to maybe follow that might not be in necessarily to wrestling, but is into this type of cheesy nonsense. I mean, heck, there used to be constantly a promotion for Schitt's Creek that happened every night after Impact Wrestling, but they're on Destination America, and people tune in just to wait for that. So we'll see what sort of viewership this gains. Shout out to Scott D'Amore, who really does get involved hands-on with his work, not afraid to take a shot from anybody that works for him, including Miss from Sue Young. But I also want to ask you about this. You talk about the fact that an established tag team in Impact Wrestling, the Knockouts, Tasha Steelz, Kiera Hogan. I wonder, Jack, do you see them being your first Knockout Tag Team champions? Because as you learned, that tournament starts in 3 weeks.
I want to see that happen, honestly. I'm actually quite surprised they're bringing back the Knockouts Tag Team championship.
Really?
Simply, it's based off how they ended it with. You end it with Eric Young and ODB. That's going to leave a really sour taste in your mouth. And you're like, oh, great. What are we going to see this time out of this?
Well, time heals all wounds, I guess. Because, apparently they're going to crown new champs come their next pay-per-view Hard to Kill.
I'm interested to see who picks that up. I don't see it being Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie. I feel like they're going to move on to a feud.
They got their own things going on.
They got their own thing going on. So it'd be nice to see Kira Hogan and Tasha Steelz pick up those.
One thing that I did enjoy from that wedding, you probably would have only noticed it if you like saw like the photograph that was taken after the gunshot. You look at Taya Valkyrie, you see her laying down at Johnny Bravo's broken corpse. This is the maid of honor, and then you see Rosemary, the bride. Like Taya Valkyrie is like screaming bloody murder, and then you see Rosemary, the bride, and she kind of is just like, huh, that's cool. Like your husband just got shot.
Well, maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe that's what the Shadow wanted, because she follows the Shadow. Rosemary is not normal. Okay, but by the way, I love her Beetlejuice attire. And hello to
I did too. Scott D'Amore doesn't get a lot of credit, honestly. One thing I love about him is that a lot of authority figures like don't get as involved with all of the talent overall on TV as they should. Like they like stick to like a handful of the talent on TV, and then they're just kind of there.
Yeah.
Like you see Scott D'Amore all over the place, and I love that about him.
And he doesn't put himself necessarily over with the talent or influence the direction of the talent. He just helps drive the talent storylines going forward. So he's not really like, a real
He's a perfect balance.
As far as, manipulation goes. He literally is guiding the product.
Right.
He's a perfect balance.
Last but not least, we had AEW Dynamite this week, and I'm leaving that up to Professor Foster, the encyclopedia of all things wrestling.
I know. I know a fair amount of stuff. But, all right.
Humble as ever.
The floor is yours, my good man, and take us through. Because here's the thing: NXT with Halloween Havoc, and possibly also with the help of NXT UK, surpassed viewership of Dynamite this week.
You are correct.
If I'm not mistaken.
They didn't get more than the key demographic, which is what everybody talks about. You need to get that higher number in the demographic. But you are correct. They won the viewership this week.
So was there anything that in this week that from AEW Dynamite standpoint that caused that? Or was it just that NXT put on a better product? But on top of that, also go through the things that stuck out to you. The floor is yours for this time period, my good man.
Okay, so once again, AEW Dynamite on the road to Full Gear as we look towards Full Gear, literally 6 days away from this time of recording. They got a go-home show this week. They were competing against a 20-year-old tradition brought back by NXT and Halloween Havoc, but they stuck to their guns as we continue to see who was going to get move it forward in the number one contender tournament towards the AEW World title. We had Wardlow versus Heyman and Page, and I thought Wardlow was showcased very strongly here. It really took a lot for the Heyman to put him down, including 2 buckshot lariats. I think it protected him well in defeat, because most of the time before this, all we know him for is MJF's lackey. I also look at the fact that on the opposite side, versus what happened last week's Dynamite, Kenny Omega had a really strong competitive main event with Pentagon L0M, including teasing, hey, you want to challenge me for the AAA Mega Championship that your brother Ray Phoenix can't? So there was a great storytelling in that match. I love the subtleties of the cleaner. Congrats to WrestleJoy, by the way, on getting the shout out during Justin Roberts' super long announcement introduction of Kenny Omega. I hope he does that every week. And the sweepers, of course, were dressed differently. It would not surprise me, now that we got Kenny Omega, Heyman and Page at Full Gear, the sweepers come out in cowboy attire. But I thought that was pretty fun, and people called it. It was basically an obvious setup. Come Full Gear. It's Kenny Omega versus Heyman and Page to see who challenges for the AEW World title next. Speaking of that, while this feels like a championship match, it's trying to take a more personal approach to invest you more into it. I fought Eddie Kingston saying, I'm sorry, Moxley, as he took out Matt Sydal with a sleeper hold, saying, quit, John Moxley, quit, was subtle tease and storytelling to see how far both these men are willing to go, who truly will not say I quit. What's it going to take to make one of these men say I quit? Keyword make, not just incapacitate. Which is right now what I'm wondering. Are they going to get it verbally, or are they just going to be like, I'm going to knock you out to the point your just body's going to quit? Which kind of gives me a different vibe for this match. Lance Archer, of course, waiting in the wings, waiting for the winner. He says he's going to unleash biblical principles of Armageddon and hell in AEW. Jake the Snake Roberts will not be held responsible. I'm very intrigued to see how that plays out. And I like the fact now they're more foreshadowing what's going on Dark towards Dynamite 2, giving an idea of what's to come. Speaking of what's to come, a breakout star to me has definitely been one John Silver, as John Silver cost Orange Cassidy in the TNT Championship match against Cody. I thought the match was well played. I thought the superplex spot onto the Lumberjacks was pretty wild. Cody once again retained within the time limit. I thought it was a pretty good match. The biggest selling point to me this week, oh, by the way, Serena Deeb and legit Layla Hirsch signed her. That was an awesome, real, technical, counterintuitive women's title match. I need more of that women's wrestling in AEW. But when it comes to AEW, there is something special about how it handles politics. As we had a town meeting with La Champion, La Demo God, Chris Jericho, and Mr. MJF, with Tony Schiavone and Dasha, of course, mediating this affair. As we were literally going to see if MJF will join the Inner Circle. Will Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle allow it? They basically had an assembly of people, including Luchasaurus, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Reba, and Eric B, guess what the B is, enlist a ton of questions towards both candidates on why MJF should be in the Inner Circle, what he would bring from a profit standpoint. Can you trust him? Because like Chris Jericho, MJF could be a bit of a prima donna. Is he going to stab y'all in the back? Moment of Dynamite for the week, though. Tony Schiavone telling Chris Jericho to shut up, as literally Chris Jericho was talking about, Eric called me names. But I knew it ever since freaking All Out. This was to set up a program between MJF and Chris Jericho. So now we have the one-on-one encounter at Full Gear of Chris Jericho and MJF. If MJF wins, and he said he'll do anything to win, he will join the Inner Circle. Chris Jericho will allow it. But they're slowly going to tease this idea that MJF, you're not even going to make it to the pay-per-view with an upcoming tag match. Looks like the Nightmare family is slowly expanding too, as it looks like the Gun Club, Austin and Billy Gunn, have now joined it, and will tag with Cody next week against Dark Order. So I'm curious what comes out of that. And maybe this is to build the Gun Club going forward. You know, build up a tag team. The focus being the tag team division. Bottom line, AEW Dynamite, it gave me a little bit of everything. The biggest aspect to me was definitely the town hall meeting. That's always was a standout. When it comes to politicking, there are always standout segments on AEW. They're brilliantly well done. They build very interesting matches and character developments, and you never know who's going to show up, and we'll see next time what political-wise happens if Eric Bischoff shows up again. And as far as the women's division, they still need to keep building it, but Sheeta accepted it. It's going to be Sheeta versus Nyla Rose for the title at Full Gear. I hope that they do sign more talent to the women's division and develop its roster. But overall, I enjoyed AEW Dynamite. I thought the match quality didn't let up.
I will say one thing before we continue. If you notice during the Lumberjack match, you can kind of see Dustin like just shoving the Dark Order away, not like hitting them. It's just like pushing them away.
Mm-hmm.
Could we see a Nightmare Family Dark Order combination? Could we see that?
Like combination, like they become one group?
They become one mega faction. Could we see that? Because I kind of saw little bits and pieces of that during the Lumberjack match. Like, why would John Silver attack Orange Cassidy? Why would he help Cody after what Cody did to Mr. Brody Lee?
I don't know about that
What's the
specific
purpose
detail,
of that?
but I did notice Cody and Dustin retreating from all that commotion
Really quickly. And they were just watching.
Mm-hmm.
Which is
We
very
also saw-
unlike.
We
It's
also
unlike
saw
Cody.
We also saw Arn Anderson. He might have hit Orange Cassidy with a mean right hand.
Well,
anyone
you
else
gotta
notice that?
remember, the Nightmare Family currently holds possession of the TNT title. It is the highest point that Cody will reach in AEW, as he can never challenge the AEW World title again. As far as your mega faction idea, unless you have an opposing force higher than the Dark Order, or the Dark Order is splitting among itself and you're developing a civil war, I don't see that happening. What I do see going on here is I think that Cody and the Nightmare Family wants to move on from this Dark Order feud. But there are still bits of it that refuse to let this go, including, as you saw, John Silver, and if you watch Dark, Anna Jay and Brandy are still at each other's throats. More so, Brandy wants a piece of Anna Jay. Anna Jay is ignoring her. But I do like the fact you do bring up title stipulations, mindsets, and that stuff, because I did forget one more key thing. Young Bucks have put their entire state of them as a tag team on the line. If they lose at Full Gear, they will never challenge for the AEW Tag Team Championships again.
Here we go again.
Which is interesting,
actually-
considering last year at Full Gear, Cody had this same idea with the world title and lost. Young Bucks, Elite, Nightmare Family, Cody, you look at it all, they do not mesh well together. They have their own ideologies on wrestling, but they're there for the company. But I do wonder, Young Bucks are tag team specialists, and I don't see them lining up how much they're going to wrestle. Now that they put in this all or nothing affair, does this make this match obviously super predictable too? And according to FTR, they have not liked the build toward this match. They thought more should be going into it, but again, due to the short time constraints, you do what you have to do. But I'm very curious right now what the Young Bucks' future will be past Saturday.
I don't like this stipulation at all. I honestly, it kind of limits to what it limits what the Bucks can do. And I understand the sentiment behind it, like, oh, we don't want to make this company so we can hold all the championships, but you're already doing that. You already have Cody as the AEW TNT champion. You're probably going to have Kenny Omega or Hangman Adam Page be your world champion. And at some point, the Bucks are going to win the fucking tag titles. I think this is dumb, honestly. I think trying to limit it is foolish. You're limiting your performers. They have to think about that at least.
Go ahead, Pete.
I see it happening like way far down the line, but I honestly don't think that the world title stipulation on Cody is going to last. I see at some point him getting out of that.
Too. Yep. I agree with that too, especially if they decide to go more towards a heel perspective. I mean,
every time they do, if I lose this match, I'll never challenge for it again. It's
one of those notions.
It's recycled,
but how many people actually hold to it? Like how they reinvent themselves to loophole that situation. And again, him being an executive, he could just turn the situation over if he goes heel, if he does go heel.
Yeah.
But here's a perfect example. If any of y'all remember back in WWE, one of the first female tag teams we ever had was between Michelle McCool and Layla.
Correct.
AKA Lay Cool, probably one of the greatest heel women's tag teams ever. Literally broke the historic women's championship in front of us.
They were flawless. They were co-champs. Yep.
Co-champs. And then what they do when they decided to split that tag team apart, they had a loser leaves home match, and who lost? Michelle McCool.
Correct.
Okay, what happened come the very first women's Royal Rumble match? Michelle McCool shows up. So it's not like, they're holding true to, it's all storyline, guys. It's all storyline. Yeah. It's not like it's legal. It's like legally written in documentation that Cody Rhodes can never challenge the AEW World Championship again. He's holding on to his morals because of his character.
I appreciate AEW, though, actually giving us more of a realistic legal look behind these contracts, though, in their contract signings with their actual legal advisor, Mega, though. That does make me feel like the contracts do hold a bit more realistic value. Plus, the contract signings have not ended with someone just going randomly through a table. Now, as far as the women's division, talk to me about your thoughts on that and the fact we got Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose in a standard championship match. Do you see Nyla Rose regaining the gold?
No,
I don't.
To be totally honest, I think this match should have happened before we got her and Big Swole.
Yeah.
Because she was the number one contender. But
yeah.
And I actually would have had Big Swole knock off Shida.
Really? Well, here's my thoughts on that, because I feel like, again, when it comes to the women's division, they're kind of bottlenecked. But now they got Serena Deeb, they got the NWA Women's Championship. It looks like ties between NWA and AEW are slowly coming together. It feels like there is better growth and hope for the women's division. But Chris Statlander, still out injured. Shauna, still stuck in the UK. And Abaddon apparently got injured too, which she was supposed to go one-on-one with Ty Conti, which is why we got Serena Deeb versus legit Layla Hirsch. By the way, I've been very impressed with her since Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. So,
But the one name we're forgetting to mention in this conversation of the women's division is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
Correct.
That is the one person who I feel like we are just slowly but surely building to make her the AEW Women's Champion. And it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It is going to happen.
Now, is it going to happen sooner than later? Because, again, with AEW, their quarterly pay-per-view models, after Full Gear, there's no pay-per-view until February. So they're going to hold that all the way out to Revolution or surprise us maybe next year during Homecoming. When do you actually see Shida dropping the title? And to who? That, I think, is the problem right now AEW is trying to figure out. Not only that, But I feel like AEW is still trying to figure out its world title picture too, because who do you take the title off of John Moxley from? I mean, do you do Eddie Kingston and try to rule this whole family angle? I don't know, and I'm still skeptical about it too. One, it's an I Quit match, so if the challenger loses, I guess it still protects his integrity, but I guess if the champion loses too, it's not under a standard match. You have that potential for a rematch. And three, Pac is coming back as well, and I feel there's going to be a fight between him and Eddie Kingston.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. That'd be pretty insane.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I feel like a couple of things in AEW are a bit bottleneck, but when it comes to the political segments, they sure know how to make them entertaining.
Exactly.
Considering how AEW is not necessarily a sports entertainment product, but a professional wrestling company, it's a different facet and a different outlook too. So it's like, what flavor you go with, what do you choose? I'm super curious to see what's going to happen this week with a standard NXT and AEW go-home show to a pay-per-view. So that's all I have to say. Anyone else got anything to say regarding AEW? Anything?
In regards to AEW Dynamite, no, I think we've pretty much covered that.
Yeah, and you covered pretty much the booking and the situations and people.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to ask you all one more question. What has been your favorite wrestler to watch in AEW?
In AEW?
Call me a bandwagoner.
Any member of the Dark Order, honestly.
Call me a bandwagoner, or just call me the fact that I just pay attention with the man who's got the title. But I got to give it to John Moxley on this one. I ever since he showed up in AEW, it's been almost irresistible for me to not watch him, because I'm just so thankful that he's been given the title and given a long, significant title reign. I'm pretty sure he has surpassed Jericho at this point.
You are correct.
He has surpassed Jericho at this point, hasn't faltered, he's been this complete and utter badass. And on top of that, he's been able to travel the world, go to Japan, and prove his superiority over there. So I got to give it to Mox.
Now, Jack, you said any member of the Dark Order. Which number has impressed you?
I'm just so enthralled with the Dark Order.
You're just so enthralled. Have you been enthralled with them before Mr. Broily came in?
I saw what they were doing before Mr. Brody Lee. And honestly, it was like, it was what it was. But now that there's Mr. Brody Lee, it's like, oh, this is really interesting. He really showed like, oh, the evil Uno is lacking in being an order, being a leader, excuse me. Why don't I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to make this my order, and we're going to do things my way. And I think that's the most entertaining part of it.
Then on top of that, you have Boom Boom.
Colt Cabana.
Dude, I went to a Ring of Honor show last year, right after WrestleMania 35 in Columbus, and he faced Nick Aldis for the NWA title. That was a good match.
I don't think Nick Aldis is ever going to lose that title, despite the fact the TV title and the women's title have changed, but the tag titles are still with James Storm and
Who would he drop it to?
What?
Mine? I gotta say Darby Allin.
Very good one.
I love
Dude,
Darby Allin.
First off, he's fantastic in the ring. He just he has a look to him, and he managed to get extreme sports stars that we grew up idolizing over again, like Tony Hawk, Travis Pastrana, Steve-O.
Freaking Steve-O. I never thought I would.
I forgot to mention this during my segment, if I could. I forgot to mention that James Storm made an appearance at Bound for Glory during the College Shot Gauntlet match. Yes, he did. He made an unannounced appearance. Yep. Now, it doesn't say anything that he has signed, but he did make an appearance.
So, Jack, looking at Impact Wrestling and how they're really putting over this young, youthful group of talent overall, it seems, do you want James Storm to come into Play It All Impact Wrestling to help maybe put somebody over?
Yes, absolutely. I think someone like James Storm brings a lot of credibility to Impact, since he was around for such a long time. I could say the same if I just decided to return. I'd say I'd want them on board, but I'd also want them, to help out the younger talent, get them more accustomed maybe this is their first time on TV.
This is more of a question of it's more of a question of preference, because I've heard so many people say this, and I'm just curious to get your take on it. Beer Money or America's Most Wanted?
I watched while it was Beer Money.
Yeah, I had to go with Beer Money.
I honestly, like, I tuned out once Beer Money became a thing. I was big into America's Most Wanted. Of course, once they broke up, Chris Harris just dropped off the face of the fucking earth.
Yes, he did. Poor guy.
He became the Marty Jannetty of America's Most Wanted.
Shit.
Yeah, and you all know how much more wrestling.
Of course, Bobby Roode is the Marty Jannetty of his team with Dolph Ziggler.
Well, let's not mention that Marty Jannetty's name with recent stuff that's happened, especially this year. Good grief.
Vince McMahon is trying to make Bobby Roode a Marty Jannetty, period. There's so many Marty Jannettys in WWE right now.
Rewind.
Vince McMahon is making them.
I thought there was something about Marty
I haven't been paying attention.
I thought there was something about Marty Jannetty did something this year, but I might be thinking about somebody else. But
I think didn't he admit to a murder on?
I think
Facebook?
It was him.
I think he said that was he was trying to play into his storyline.
Yeah, you can only hope. There's a Dark Side of the episode waiting to happen. And yeah, you all know me. I watch so much more wrestling, but when I think about my favorite wrestling match this week, NXT UK, Let Dragunov Walter, it took it from me. I could watch that match again. That was NXT UK TakeOver main event worthy.
Right, exactly.
It absolutely was.
One of the things, so now we're moving more into the hot topics. One of the things I wanted to address and news worthy, one of the things that really has been brought to my attention more so this past week than ever before, but it's been on my radar for quite some time, and I've addressed it multiple times on here, is this is a third streaming platform. We're a bunch of 4 random guys from the state of Ohio who are not legally obligated by our jobs to, or have no restrictions from our current, from what we do in our lives outside of this to prevent us from doing this. And now, if you work for WWE, according to, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to live with this for the rest of my life as long as I continue to do this with you 3 fine gentlemen. WWE, according to Elias's character, stands for Walk with Elias. Well, to Noah Garber, it stands for get paid and get fucked. Because you get hired by WWE, you get paid millions of dollars, a millions of dollar contract, you get tons of followers on social media, you get television time, but you have no creativity whatsoever, no creative control. I'm going the fuck off right now. Yeah, you better believe it. And then all of a sudden, when you decide you want to do something fun on your downtime, like getting on Twitch or YouTube and getting your own following, WWE wants to latch on that and take it from you. No, that's not fair whatsoever. And on top of that, they want to play it off like you're some sort of independent contractor, like but you can't go and work for anybody else.
Here's the thing. So my one of the podcasts that I listen to, it's called Going in Raw. If you ever go look up
that's a play on words.
It is. Go look up Steven Larson. Check them out. They put on a good show.
I saw him in Canada.
When this first went down, and like it was still in the early stages, they were talking about like the actual amount of the roster as a whole between all 4 brands that like actually get on these third-party services. And on paper, it seems like it's a high number, but when you look at the like actual percentage of the roster that gets on there, it's not very high. And what that actually means is that, you know, the percentage that WWE is going to be making versus what they're going to the bad publicity they're going to be getting for doing this, it doesn't really make sense for them in the long run.
Jack, do you have any thoughts on this in regards to like the third streaming platforms or the third party streaming sources or like that whole thing?
I think it's a shitty business practice, but it's a business practice. This is business at the end of the day. They're going to try and wring as much money out of their performers as they can. This is honestly, this whole situation isn't new. This has happened before, just not in WWE. Other businesses will be like, hey, if you're doing this, we need a cut. and it makes
Right.
sense. Like you're putting your likeliness out. You're gaining more revenue based on you. And how did you get there? Well, you were a performer there. You're going to get recognition if they've never watched even if they've never watched wrestling, because they're like, oh, this person's a celebrity. Let's see what they're doing.
Right.
Even for those few seconds, you're gaining more recognition. You're gaining more revenue out of it. And WWE's like, you're using the name that we've given you. We are owed some of this revenue.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm honestly felt like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I feel like there was some room for compromise here. Like if they had said,
Absolutely.
hey, if they had said, hey, you can't use your WWE name, you got to go by your real name, I honestly would have been fine with that.
Yeah.
If they had told me
I'd be
that,
cool
if I was
with
a
that.
wrestler and they told me that would have not been a problem.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
the
well, at the
fact
end of the
that-
day,
I
it
honestly
comes
would
down
have.
to
I honestly
Vince
would have
saying
understood that.
he
I
owns
would
you
have seen where they're
100%.
coming from.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Vince owns people like intellectual property. That's what it comes down to. He doesn't
Yep.
own just your character. He owns you as an individual. Yeah, you're an independent contractor, but at the end of the day, you still work under the WWE product. Vince owns you and owns all rights to you and all property value that you have as well in character, in merchandise, in third-party marketship. And people don't want to be used that way because people feel like
Right.
it's a denial of their freedoms and
Mhm.
their creativity and their connection with their friends in the community that they develop. That's why AJ Styles, that's why Mia Yim, that's why Paige, and the list is only going to grow from here, even if it's a small portion that involves themselves in these third-party platforms. Big E, for example, on Cameo, it's going to rise and it's going to lead to some bad blood within the company. Now, how that affects their work ethic and how that affects profits going forward, Vince could care less as long as he's seeing dollar signs. But with Paige even talking about the idea of what people have been figuring that this enterprise, this industry, this sport needs is unionization, that's gotta raise a few red flags for some people, but this is still overkill in my opinion. But again,
Why
Vince
do you-
Rich is the compromise. At the end of the day, it's all about the money.
Right. But
Do you guys think Fox or USA like might see this and like might be, concerned about what's going on?
If they are concerned, they haven't said anything on it, and
I think Fox, being a major network, might look at it and be like, dude, you're being out of line.
I
have
don't
a
know.
quote
Fox
here
is an
from-
odd channel. I mean,
Yeah.
just saying.
Go
I mean,
ahead,
Fox wanted everything Raw had, which is why they got everything Raw had during the draft. So who really has the power here? Is it the networks? Is it Vince? Is it equally shared? Because as far as the third party thing goes, you're not going to see any of these W superstars on Ultimate Tag or 25 Words or Less like they've been on in the past probably too. This is all about Vince McMahon just truly showing who's in charge here, who owns you. Now, once they leave WWE, it'll be a different story, such as the Good Brothers who do their talking shop stuff now with Impact Wrestling.
Miro on Twitch.
Bing. There you go.
Pete, before you go ahead, I just want to mention, because Noah mentioned her earlier. With Paige, though, she's not performing in the ring. This is where I draw the fucking line, because here's an individual who no longer can perform for you, who was signed for the primary reason of her talent in the ring. Not only is she not performing in the ring, but since we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic, she's not on live TV anymore. And you're going to take away the one thing that has given her solace, warmth, and comfort due to the fact that her neck is broken. That's fucked up. Continue.
agree.
It seems like every time she's found something else, it's gotten taken away. Like the in-ring, the ability to compete in the ring, that got taken away.
Yep.
Her job as GM, that got taken away.
Yep.
Her job as her show on Backstage, that got taken away.
And that was the last time she was actually under WWE television viewership, but she's still under WWE contract. So at the end of the day, it applies to her.
Yeah.
I think if she doesn't comply and she basically gets
Breaches
let
her
go
contract.
from her contract, reaches her contract or gets let go from her contract, our girl's gonna be happy.
There's
She's
probably going to be a
gonna
lot
be
of
happy
legal
with it.
litigation.
Here's
to
the
that.
thing.
It's not as simple as saying, blank you, I quit.
Right.
I watched that stream and she's flat out said, here's the thing. She said, I love the WWE, but like I grew up here. I have friends here, but this is just coming to be too much. It's not just as simple as just leaving,
Right.
but legally or emotionally. So I have a quote here from, of all people, Ryback. So I've never been the biggest Ryback fan, but he actually nailed it when he said this. Vince is not a good human being. That's the issue, and people think if you lay back and let him take control over you, they will eat you alive, which is why I am the way that I am and why I got everything I got, because I will not back down from him. I won't back down until the day I die. Even then, I will haunt his soul from above. I will not stop because he is such a horrible human being. I get hot and can't wait with AEW and everything they are doing, because change will come and people will realize the wrestling business will be so much better in the future from what it was, end quote.
Right. Okay. Yeah. This is kind of.
I don't normally agree with Ryback, but that's like.
Okay. Well, again, though, you're talking about politics now, and you just dropped the 3 letters AEW. AEW says they're not political. It's more so on merit. So yeah, change does seem like it could happen, but do you ever see that type of change, that type of principle seen by the talent in WWE? That's a whole different conversation. That could be a whole nother podcast.
Now we have to talk about like business in general. Like how does business work? And I'm gonna keep it real. Business hasn't really changed that much. It's still about turning a profit, getting your product out, and making sure your business can continue for the next 100 years, 200 years. It lives on. Make
but
sure
it's also,
your name will live on.
Sometimes the business comes down to how do your employees feel. And right now, AEW, everyone feels pretty good right there, it seems. But then again, you only have to work 1 day a week. You can take independent bookings. It does seem like there is more freedom when you're signed with AEW versus the WWE. But under WWE, you do have more exposure and I guess more opportunities to use yourself in some way. I mean, look at Taz O'Neill. He doesn't wrestle, but he's one of the biggest community leaders in the world.
Yep.
People gonna be jumping ship. More people are going to be jumping ship.
Well, they're going to be trying. Honestly, I don't think the AEW would sign them if they try to jump ship. Do they have the money to? Do they have the resources to?
Dude, AEW is owned by freaking Khan family.
But they haven't.
Tony Khan, who owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are richer than Vince McMahon.
But they haven't signed some of the talent that we have seen. We haven't seen them sign Matt Sydal. He's not officially under contract.
Because we're under a pandemic.
Kingston wasn't officially under contract.
Right.
A lot of.
You can't.
I know.
It's a weird time right now, also, because you got to think about, okay, I signed this talent, but can I use them? Okay, that's why WWE's not even signing a lot of people right now.
Yeah.
There aren't signings across the board.
Can I just say something?
Doing the exact opposite.
If I can say something really quickly, if Paige takes a break from her stream, lets her contract ride out, and then after she doesn't re-sign, she goes and joins AEW and shows up on television as a part of the Dark Order, I would lose my fucking mind. That would be fucking fantastic.
Anna Jay and Paige in the Dark Order. Well,
that only makes sense. That's logic.
I mean, it'd be an interesting turn that she goes against Ty Conti, but I think you're just fantasy booking something for 2021. But again, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I mean, she could just let her contract ride out and not sign with anybody, because I don't think she needs wrestling anymore. She has transcended the business. The Rock made a movie about her life. She's eventually going to go into the WWE Hall of Fame if her neck doesn't heal or she gets another surgery to get her neck realigned and being able to perform again. And even if she does, she could be a glorified manager for the rest of her life if she wants to. The point is, this is a conflict, because her job is saying you can't do the thing that you love. Well, I want to do the thing that I love because I love it and I love people. So this is the one example out of all the people with the third party streamers where it's like, it's even more fucked up, because now you have signed a contract with somebody who cannot do their primary duties. And I don't even know the terms and conditions of said contract, because even when she re-signed recently and was able to get more money from WWE during her Fox days, she can't even do that because it's gone. The Fox show is gone. So it's just like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like,
I mean, she could try and start a podcast. I mean, that's what most people are doing nowadays.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Alexa Bliss for the Uncool podcast. I've been listening to that recently.
It's very fun. It's very fun. I very much enjoy it.
By the way, let's also recognize that Pete Haas of the Sauce is basically a lookalike of Alexa Bliss's boyfriend. I saw the
Ryan Cabrera.
Ryan Cabrera.
Ryan Cabrera.
Literally, look up the photo of Ryan Cabrera with Alexa Bliss right now, both Jack and Noah, and tell me I'm fucking crazy, because I'm not. It's a mirror image. Ryan Cabrera looks exactly like the Hoss at the Sauce.
If only I could be so. If only I could be as. If only I could be as tall.
So Pete looks like Alexa Bliss's boyfriend, and Pete could probably could cover Elias's album.
If only.
Hey, there you go.
I don't know about that. If only I could be as tall as Ryan Cabrera. That's all I want.
That's all you want, just some height.
I'd settle for 6 feet.
Oh, that's what I am. So there you go.
I'm
Just
6
6 feet,
foot tall. 6 foot tall.
6 feet, bro.
I'm not asking for much. That's the thing. I can't change that about myself. So when someone says you're short, I'm like, well, thanks.
Thanks.
What do I do now?
Hey, look at Selena Vega. Look at Alexa Bliss. They're using their height to their advantage.
Right, exactly.
Nikki Cross.
Exactly.
I'm so annoyed with the way they're using Nikki Cross. But anyway, that's
So one of the things that caught my attention, and I don't think it's something that we've really talked about on this show. If we have, it's been a while. It's the fact that even though professional wrestling does have a large fan base, it has drastically decreased, and it's not the same type of fan base as it was, as Noah mentioned or somebody mentioned back than it was back in the 80s and 90s. Why?
I think we also mentioned that, but it's also again different time, different outlets, different technology, different options. You gotta remember, Twitch, social media, other options beyond wrestling did not exist back in the 80s and 90s. It's a whole different era.
But there's a same stigma all these years later, and we all know what I'm talking about when I mention this. There's one stigma that has latched onto when you say pro wrestling. What is it?
The F word.
People, the 4-letter F word that is not a verb for intercourse. I'm talking about the 4-letter F word in regards to not legitimate. People calling wrestling fake. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a talk show segment. I don't remember the name of the host. I won't mention his name because I don't know who it was. He's no longer relevant. You had Sting. You had Sting on the show with Bobby the Brain Heenan, along with Medusa.
Tuesday Night Titans
and Roddy Piper. Who is it?
Is it Tuesday Night Titans?
No, I don't think so.
Is this like an actual like pro wrestling talk show? Or is this
no. This was like a Jimmy Fallon or a Jimmy Kimmel. Like this guy had 4 pro wrestlers from WCW at the time, and basically the host is talking about wrestling like it's fake, and Medusa is sitting there like, he's like, I'm not trying to offend you, and Medusa's like, well, I'm offended, and then Roddy Piper unbuckles his pants and basically is like, fake hip. I have a fake fucking hip. My wrist is made of metal. Go tell the Hart mother that wrestling is fake, and she'll tell you all about how her son died in the ring. Like, it went there on live TV. I saw this and I lost my mind.
It's either Jay Leno or Conan.
Nope.
I honestly don't know.
Anyway, so so the whole stigma you're talking about is no matter what you watch, where you are, how old you are, how new you are, the one concept that people associate with anything connected to blank wrestling of some facet is that 4-letter effort that rhymes with cake. So you're figuring that can never be removed, basically, and we're always going to be in the same bubble. Like,
no.
Right, like where you going with this, man? Where you going with this? Because as fans, we don't acknowledge that word.
What I'm getting at is, and I'm going to acknowledge the fact that there's going to be people who will always they won't tune in because of that 4-letter word. My whole argument with that is, well, okay, I guess you can never watch anything related to the Marvel movies, or anything of Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, any fan base of anything fictional, because that's not real either.
Some people
can't read a book.
You can't read a book.
I guess we're going to let a stigma get to us.
I guess you can't play Dungeons and Dragons and act like whatever character you want, because role play. You can't role play because again, that's fake.
You can't do a damn thing.
Right. We're saying that right now is that if you're tuning in and watching this and saying that pro wrestling is fake, then get the fuck off.
Okay, so let me counteract you because there are moments of fake that the community does not want to see in wrestling. So I'm just going to say this, and then you all can talk about it.
If that were true, we wouldn't have a job.
Yeah, there you go. But what is everyone thinking about Aaliyah and Murphy's love angle?
I said what I needed to say about that.
Yeah.
Because the community is already blowing up. Because here's the way I see it. I see it two ways. One, we know it's fake. It's acting. Okay? But two, I feel like people are seeing this in a different way. The age gap. And what movement did we recently had across all social media regarding wrestlers and relationships?
Speaking out.
Bingo.
We don't learn our lessons, I guess.
Or you just influence Vince McMahon. This is brilliant. I'm a genius. I could use this.
This is good shit.
This is such good shit.
You know, I
like it, so that's all that matters.
As long as it gains viewership and ratings. I haven't even looked at that YouTube clip. I have no idea, but I bet you it's got the second most views versus Roman and Jey Uso. But
I'll bite the bullet.
The way people just react sometimes, I feel like, to how something is portrayed in this world of sports entertainment or wrestling in general, I feel sometimes is maybe overreactive, but according to this whole Murphy-Aaliyah thing, I have to agree. This is absolute unnecessary bullshit.
There you go. So, but anyway, in regards to, we still love it. And even though it is predetermined, it's planned out. It's not UFC. If you want to watch UFC, tune into UFC. We're not against the UFC. I fucking love
have you guys not noticed former UFC competitors have become WWE superstars? Just saying.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. But on top of that, you have but still the inspiration for a good promo. It's continuing on into MMA. I mean, the press conferences held by Conor McGregor are fucking. It's a living promo. Like I fucking love his shit. Anytime he gets out there and talks trash. Anytime. If you guys have ever seen the press conference between him and Khabib Nurmagomedov,
now retired.
Khabib now retired, but back then he, like just making fun of the way he talks, like being able to talk trash, like it's why, like I wanted to see him in the corner of Becky Lynch when the man was leading the charge and was hot on fire in WWE. If only. But anyway, we're going on a tangent. What I'm meaning to say is it's its own category. And it's also that 4-letter F word. It's also, it's what causes pro wrestling to put itself in its own little bubble. Mm-hmm. It's also why Eric Bischoff is not running CNN, Time Warner, or any of the major networks, because he was able to turn WCW into a almost $1 billion revenue company.
He said those days of selling live television are way behind him. He's done with that.
Right, exactly.
That's all you're doing. You're just selling television. Even the Walter Dragunov match, as brutal, bloody, physical as it was, when the wrestlers put in their work in the story of match, you still got to remember at the end of the day, it comes down to whose person's body holds out, or politicking-wise, at least Raw and SmackDown, it seems, who does the boss like? I feel like with NXT and NXT UK, there's a bit more freedom towards how you can play a match out. While, again, on Raw and SmackDown, you're in a much more smaller bubble, unless Vince allows you to express yourself a little more. Hence why this Roman Reigns character change has finally come that people have wanted for years.
Right. Anywho.
I got some news.
Go ahead.
So, this comes from 411 Mania by way of Fightful Select. So, for those who don't know, it was last weekend, I believe, Xia Li was pulled at the last minute from her kickboxing fight. According to this, and I quote, Xia Li had a planned kickboxing fight pulled by WWE. According to a new report, Fightful Select reports that the NXT star was scheduled for an amateur kickboxing fight, and WWE only heard about it when it became known online days before it was supposed to happen. Then they then pulled her from the fight, while the outlet notes that everyone they spoke with in WWE understood why the company pulled her. Lee was said to be upset and didn't understand why, thinking WWE, quote, wasn't giving her respect. the site also notes that according to several people in NXT, Lee's increased presence on the brand was due to her being frustrated and going directly to Triple H to say she's ready to get a chance. The NXT boss was said to appreciate Lee's initiative. Lee was said to be adamant that she could carry her own if given the chance. So that is honestly probably why we're seeing her on NXT more often, because she
and turn heel.
And apparently has some sort
I respect the hell out of that.
But didn't miss that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's the minor stuff like that. But also, she got this like manager guy with her in the bone guy spot. Thank you.
I've seen him like I've gone through like the roster a couple times just to like see if someone's like like picture change like this depict if they got the belt for shits and gigs, and I see his name on there. I'm just like, who the hell's this guy? I'm like, guess that's who he is.
Who the fuck is that guy?
But no, the guy that makes like freaking the dumplings or whatever, according to the WPC. But also it goes back to that thing about WWE doesn't want you, to like get involved in other like parties, whether it's like, for your own sport or for marketing. I mean, you see my Ring Conf shirt in the background. That was led by like Walter and the original guys from WXW. Dasila is Hakle. Well, apparently they have to finally close down their store. The man is sacred in Germany. Apparently they have to close down their store now because you can't make money off another merchant type of store value that is not affiliated with WWE. Walter has to shut down operations.
Shit.
Meanwhile, Jake Hager just won a Bellator fight.
And it was they acknowledged also on AEW that Jake Hager is not here right now because he's preparing for a fight.
How about you support your employees?
So we clearly see which company is the best to work for and which one gives you the most freedom. AEW. And I think that's the best thing going for it, and why AEW. Even the viewers will say one thing. Weekly viewers, the numbers will say one thing. But I think Vince is going to be just racking his brain on why he's making less and less money per year, and AEW is becoming more and more successful. It's because of what you're doing.
I mean, you say less money a year, but apparently they just got the like third quarter, I think, reports or whatever. They're making more money now than ever, apparently, it seems. But again, that comes down to how far they're stretching the WWE brand. I mean, all now you see like more shop ad time. You see more stuff about they got content streaming on Peacock. I feel like WWE at this point doesn't care that they're losing some money. They're still making plenty of money. But I feel Vince is finally looking at NXT as this product exists, but maybe it's not good enough for me to put more effort, interest, or publicity into. Hence why the Non-Involvement Survivor Series this year, because 9 out of 10, Vince does probably care about ratings and sees AEW beats them.
I mean, here's an interesting question, because we've always talked about like how AEW is going to treat their talent better than WWE treats their talent. What about Impact? Like, I've never seen like, what Impact stars are trying to do outside of the company. And I'm not saying like what one does outside of the other, but like, are they like heavily involved in stuff outside of, or like maybe like wrestling probably, but like
somewhat. I mean, again, the Good Brothers host their own little talking shop type wrestling show. A lot of Impact stars get involved in that, and Kylie Ray is a foundation of independent wrestling, and I wonder right now if Kylie Ray is okay, because again, she did not show up at Bound for Glory and did not show up Tuesday on Impact Wrestling. Apparently, it was due to some undisclosed injury, according to what I last read. But yeah, some people in Impact are involved in wrestling outside of Impact Wrestling, wrestling-based activities.
Deonna Purrazzo,
I don't know details.
Champion, and she wasn't even signed.
And now she is.
I don't know details as far as the Kylie Ray thing, but allegedly the no-show thing with Kylie Ray has happened before.
Yeah. Well, again, Kylie Ray also has had a lot of challenges put forth against her, physically and mentally especially. And a lot of people face that too.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't hold anything against her. But just going off your question as far as outside involvement in the wrestling business, as far as what you're signed with, yes, there are people that are involved in our stuff outside of EC3 is involved in Ring of Honor.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually watched his match last night, and it was really good.
Yeah, an actual wrestling match, I might add, because Impact Wrestling, he hasn't wrestled. He fought cinematically. So I'm still curious what direction they're going with him in Impact Wrestling, or is he even signed with Impact Wrestling? But again, as far as anything outside the ring, it does seem you have more freedom.
I have two things to say about Impact. One, I know it's since it's pretty certain it's happening. I am very much looking forward to Rich Swann versus Moose. That match is going to be very exciting.
Yep.
I think it's, they're probably just going to unify those two world titles. And two, I've been saying this for a while. I think they should just say fuck it and bring back the six-sided ring.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that 100%. It's what made them unique in the beginning. It's what will make them unique.
It's what made them stand out.
It is.
Even now even though now it's Impact, back then it was TNA, still to this day, nobody else is rocking a six-sided ring. Nobody.
Yeah, you're not going to see that six-sided ring show up anywhere else.
If they're ever going to do an Ultimate X match again, I don't want to see it like in a square ring. I feel like it's safer in a six-sided ring.
Yeah,
I feel like you have more
you're basically
space.
just seeing a ladder match if you do another X Division match in a four-sided ring.
Agreed.
All right, so as far as anything else, wrestling, news, rants, opinions, does anyone else have
I'm going to find
anything?
something because, quite frankly, this is our first time live, and I want to take advantage of it.
Well,
So
there
I'm
you
gonna
go.
take
I
the
mean,
initiative
shoot,
and
go
find
as long
something.
as you want.
Go
Talk
for
about
it.
what you want.
If you're an upstart professional wrestling talent and you're looking to jumpstart your career, don't sign to WWE.
Well, there you go.
It's just not a good time.
It might not be a good time, but again, biggest exposure you'll get. But based on recent principles now passed,
Is it worth it?
yeah, again, based on recent principles now passed, who knows? I mean, people were worried for a while that since Fronto Rosa dropped the title to Serena Deeb, that was a great match, by the way, on NWA Primetime. They thought that she was going to go to WWE because WWE has great interest in her. But according to Billy Corgan, president of the NWA, she is with the NWA at least for the next year, so people have nothing to worry about.
Oh, you know what we didn't talk about?
What?
Hang on.
The Shoot in the Breeze. Shout out to those
And I
that
quote,
out of the chat.
by Vince McMahon Netflix miniseries.
Oh yeah.
I won't read.
right.
I won't read the thing. And let's be honest, on paper, that should be cool. Like, depending on what era of Vince McMahon we were living in, like the idea of that would probably be a lot cooler. But like, he just has a stigma about him right now. That's just kind of the way I'm choosing to look at it, because we're talking about someone who, again, has given us, so much, but lately hasn't given us a whole lot of anything except for reasons to hate him.
Right. This is a third party streaming source, Vince. You have to cancel yourself.
I will say this: when we're talking about documentaries, one thing I think I would actually very much be into, and I'm surprised they haven't pulled the trigger on it. You guys are aware of the documentary series 30 for 30 on ESPN?
Yes.
I would not be opposed to a 30 for 30 about the first WrestleMania.
I wouldn't mind
I
seeing
think that would sell.
How it all started.
They have to get the right director, but like I think that would sell hardcore.
I could see them doing that maybe
I'd
WrestleMania
watch it.
50, like a celebration of what WrestleMania started as and became. Now, what WrestleMania 50 is going to be is your guess is as good as mine, and I almost fear for it, but I digress.
Yeah, right.
As far as the documentary thing with Vince McMahon, if people want to learn about the evil business principles behind one of the most rich people in the world and influential people in the world, then yeah, people are going to go to it. But I also think about this. Netflix, once again, taking advantage of its customers, raising their prices. I really wonder how that really is going to help keep people with their service. And in fact, this was one service that said, we will never do this to you. And now they're doing it a second time.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Like years ago, they were actually going to do a movie about Vince McMahon. And you know who was going to play him?
Oh.
Bradley Cooper. Which I would have actually been down with that.
Okay, well, fun question. Noah G, if you were to book your own movie on the life and times of Vince McMahon, who would you have play as Vince McMahon?
Let's see. Who would I pick to play Vince McMahon?
You just You just gave a loaded gun to someone who is ready to fire it off.
Well, I'm not necessarily ready to fire it off. I'm just trying to think of the most despicable person in Hollywood and lash that onto them and say, "Here's this thing, go for it." But the thing is,
Kanye
it's
it is.
hard to. That
I wasn't thinking about that guy, but okay. Damn.
I don't know how you would dress Kanye West up to look like Vince McMahon.
Oh, Hollywood's got makeup.
Don't.
They know how to do it. But okay, maybe we're getting a little touchy there. Anyway,
in regards to Hollywood, if I were to get anybody to play Vince McMahon in a documentary, well, obviously, if this documentary features The Rock, I would need The Rock in it to play himself. But to play Vince, like, that's hard, boys. Like, because I like a lot of actors in Hollywood. I want to give.
Keep in mind, they're actors. They're pretending.
right, this isn't actual Vince McMahon, but you gotta find somebody that can encompass the man known as Vince McMahon.
Let's see. Can you imagine Leonardo DiCaprio playing Vince McMahon?
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Because I'll be picturing. You know who I'll be picturing?
Oh, I got it. I got it. Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci.
He can be like older years. He can be like older years, Vince.
Joe Pesci.
And Leo can still be younger, Vince. You know who I'll be picturing if he were to play that? Have you seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Of course.
That's what's in my mind. I still think Bradley Cooper would be good. What about you, Jack?
Bradley Cooper doesn't need that bullshit.
Who would I pick as Vince?
Who would you pick to play Vince?
Oh man, that's tough.
No, don't do that to him.
Nah, I'm messing with him. It's all good. But we do have dead silence right now.
I don't know. I part of me wants to go with Leonardo DiCaprio based on his Wolf of Wall Street performance.
That's exactly what I said.
He literally said the same thing.
Here's the thing: we're on the same page. I can't think of anyone else. Honestly, I can't think of anyone else.
All right, I respect that.
I'm just gonna agree with you.
Yeah, I'm sure that this is gonna bring a lot of eyes to the WWE product about this is the mind behind the machine that is.
But this is a documentary. This is a documentary, not necessarily. It's not a biopic where like they're having somebody play Vince.
But you want to bring up biopics though? I'll give you one because the Netflix biopic on I don't know if it is Netflix. It might be coming out in theaters, but the biopic on Hulk Hogan is a thing, and Chris Hemsworth is playing Hulk. But you know who I've been like thinking about who should play who and stuff like that. I already know who I want to play Bobby. Have you ever seen? Have you ever watched Breaking Bad?
Yes.
A little bit.
Saul, Better Call Saul, the guy that plays him. I want that guy playing Bobby Heenan.
Aaron Riff, we're getting really behind that idea because he
okay
since day one.
Yes.
Now in that one, who would you? Well, here's the thing though. Wouldn't you also need somebody to play Andre the Giant?
See, that's hard. I'm trying to think of who could play Andre.
Get Big Show.
That's probably the only real candidate.
I need a good actor.
Well, you gotta have somebody that literally can fit the mold, though. That's the problem.
Big Show's got a TV show on the network.
You really don't think Big Show can do Andre?
A big show, yeah. I mean, wait, didn't that show get
Maybe
canceled off Netflix? I thought.
You know what? Actually, let me think. Now that you mention it, Andre rarely spoke. Maybe Big Show is a good option.
There you go.
Put a wig on him. He's good.
Put a wig on him.
If you have one interview, I think Big Show could pull it off. I think
he's just got to work on that French accent. As far as Randy Savage, I'm trying to think.
You get Dan Soder from Billions. If you've seen the show Billions, he's also a comedy.
He's the one that was opposite Paul Giamatti.
Right. He has a on point Macho Man impression. Like he does everything perfect. Oh yeah, brother. You know,
All right, we don't work Hollywood, but I'm sure Hollywood wrestling would probably take some of these ideas.
Well, I'm sure that'll be interesting in and of itself. On the topic of, going back to the documentary again, I just think that it's just the coincidence of this being announced at the same time that WWE is basically pulling the plug on all their talent that have third-party streaming platforms. It's like,
you need to make himself look good.
Well, you gotta have that
so
positive
documentary
PR.
based on yourself being released on Netflix, yet your talent can't do, fun stuff on Twitch. Okay, that makes sense.
It's fun.
To be fair, how long has this probably been in development, and now they're just announcing it? We don't know what Vince McMahon's trying to do behind the scenes. This is the same guy that wanted to bring back football, and look what happened to the XFL. Now The Rock has it, and we'll see what really happens with it.
Yeah, hopefully it's more.
Speaking of the Big Show's TV show on Netflix, is he gonna make Big Show cancel that?
No, I doubt that.
No,
there's no way.
Because
I guarantee
it's not like he's literally interacting with the fans. The thing about Twitch and Cameo, you're literally interacting with the fans. The only medium that WWE does that they profit off of is the virtual meet and greets, and they probably want the superstars to strictly stick to that. If you're doing a show on Netflix and you're like a legend, he's probably like, you know what, you go do your own thing. Because it's not like a legend's using Netflix or it's not like a legend right now is using freaking Twitch or Cameo right now to make a buck.
Don't make the mistake of thinking that everybody gets the Legends treatment. I mean, I'm pretty sure they went after Lita, who's also on Twitch, with the same bullshit that the current talent is doing.
They haven't heard from Lita, though. That's the thing.
We haven't heard anything, but I mean,
I think Lita can live without WWE.
Yeah, of course, but she's not.
So it doesn't matter so much to her as the talent that are signed.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Let's not get it
signed.
Yeah, let's not get it twisted in adding legends and people that aren't performing or aren't constantly on the show. This is mainly pushed towards contracted individuals that are being featured weekly.
Contracted individuals.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm curious now what's going to happen to Xavier Woods' Up, Up, Down, Down channel.
I feel like that also brings a lot of revenue for WWE. This goes back to WWE being a business. It's business foremost. What can make us the most money in the shortest amount of possible?
That's why they own Up, Up, Down, Down.
Yep, that's why they own it.
Surprised me they
and
don't
the
have
fact that Big Show's doing
it.
The fact that Big Show's doing a Netflix show, well, obviously they're sending a cut to Vince. There has to be a cut sent to Vince, so it doesn't matter. It's the third party that are not sending any money to WWE. That's where he's like, no, you're using your likeness. I need a cut if you're going to do that. And if you're not going to do that, you're not going to be a part of it.
So you agree with that?
I don't. Here's the thing. I think it's a shitty practice, but it makes sense in a way. I'm not saying I completely agree with it. The way that it's being pushed forward is really shitty. But the idea is like it makes sense. Like,
and like I said, is like there's just more room for compromise. Like if they just want to say, hey, you can do it, you just can't use your WWE name. If I was a wrestler, I would have honestly wouldn't have cared.
I wouldn't mind.
I would have totally understood that.
Even
Again,
if they
though,
do.
You're trying to compromise with the devil.
Yes.
Vince McMahon will never, ever, ever bend to your will.
That's why this is such a big deal.
Exactly.
Wrestlers have already started talking to Andrew Yang because like they want advice on how to handle the situation.
Yeah, we got a politician involved in this. Now it's definitely real.
It's because, and the reason that's a big deal is because before that, most people probably looked at this and said, "Oh, it's a wrestling thing. It probably doesn't matter."
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is a much bigger deal.
Yeah. Now that someone from the outside world is looking at this, it's like it's a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Or at least it's perceived as a bigger deal.
Poor AJ Styles and the Discord community he built. I looked at the Discord today. Lock.
It's just like, what is Vince trying to prove, like, by doing this?
That he owns you.
Simple as that.
Which, does he though? Should he?
It's Vince. This guy has a yacht named the Sexy Bitch.
All Tony Khan has ever been trying to do is put on a show.
Yes.
Yes, he does. Which that's actually kind of cool. I'm not going to take that away from him.
We can't take that away from him, but
that's like the clip. That's like the clip from the Social Network where like he's talking to Justin Timberlake's talking to Jesse Eisenberg.
We've all gone to gym class. You're gonna
have a business card that says "I'm CEO, bitch." I'm like,
that's Vince. Vince has to have the biggest dick in the room. He has to.
My God.
That's literally the only way I can put it. If you ever been in a locker room, we've all seen that. That comes in, and that's Vince. He comes in.
You know what would be the ultimate? You know what would be the ultimate revenge? You know what I really want to see? The Bruiserweights get back together, hijack the sexy bitch, and shoot a music video called "Boats and Bros."
And on that note, I'm just gonna say this: he's no longer Matt Riddle. He's simply called Riddle.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
What does that do for him?
Nothing.
Tune in next week to hear Noah G's rants.
We're talking about
apparently Matt isn't a good babyface name. Is what I've been told.
No, Matt and Riddle have now become, those two words together have now struck a chord to the point anybody who Googles them, the first thing they see is the accusations. Okay, so they think they can just take the name Matt and it just all.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this: Matt Riddle didn't do anything wrong. He didn't.
Right.
Well, still, regardless, dropping someone's first name is still a ridiculous practice that WWE is continuing to do.
On one exception though, Noah. The one exception where this worked is how much over is Cesaro than Antonio Cesaro?
We wouldn't have had Rusev
he still is not, where he should be,
Rusev.
But I get what you're saying.
Alexander Rusev.
That's a name change. That's a name change I didn't mind though.
But like Matt Riddle doesn't make sense to just shorten to Riddle. Like when we shortened Mustafa Ali to just Ali. Like what's up with that? Right. What are we doing?
I think they gave him the Mustafa back. If I'm not
he did get Mustafa back, yeah.
Not that it matters because Retribution's still dead in the water. I'm surprised they buried it before Survivor Series.
Anyway, the only other thing I forgot to mention is the fact that we have a talent from another field of professionalism, and by whom I mean Pat McAfee, coming into the world of WWE and absolutely motherfucking killing it. The man is on fire right now in NXT. And not only that, he's also pulling an Adam Cole, Bay, and forming his own faction. So you hate Adam Cole so much that you want to become him. That I just see as ironic. Is you understand that you have to make friends in this business, so you make alliance with the tag team champions as well as the longest reigning United Kingdom WWE champion. Okay, hell yeah, you got your own stable, Pat McAfee. We're gonna have some war games upcoming. Again with the 8 of you.
I just don't know how they would pull off war games inside the CWC. I don't know if you could fit the 2 cages in there.
They'll make it work.
We'll see what happens.
Anywho, boys, we've been going for a hot minute. We've been on this live stream for about an hour and a half. We could keep it going. Actually, almost an hour 45. We can keep it going.
42 minutes according to my live count.
Yeah.
All right. I got one more. One more piece of news. So.
I can hear the buttons clicking.
Meanwhile, tune in for the next takeover that apparently will not be Survivor Series weekend. It will be in December.
Why?
I don't know. But I'm pretty sure
it's the best answer I could have heard. Like if you would give me
McAfee for the brand versus the Undisputed Era. It's got to be. And I feel like Pete Dunne was brought in just because Rich Holland got injured.
I was trying to find the actual article for it, but essentially they're looking for their the plan is now to leave at, I believe, the end of November, leave the Thunderdome. Yes. And they're looking for sites in, I think, Illinois and North Carolina and one other state. They're looking for newer buildings because the Thunderdome works better there.
Okay.
Now,
I mean,
I could see renegotiations happening between now and there because there's a lot of time between now and the end of November.
I don't see them moving. They'd be ridiculous to move. What do you mean the Thunderdome will work better there? Are you just saying you have better reception or something? I mean,
if you don't know for a fact right now that this technology is going to work in the building you're moving to, you shouldn't be moving there.
Absolutely. I mean, have they
It is
really
that
have they even
simple.
tested it on a small scale? Because let's be honest, I told you I tried the Thunderdome. It took me 15 minutes of constantly refreshing the link. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, screw what they say. It doesn't work. You can click refresh,
Yeah.
and it will eventually work. In Google Chrome, anyway, I did, and it was okay. I would not do it again. I've known several people that have done it multiple times, including Jeff Meacham, Colin Andrew, my friend on Twitter, Brina Butter. She tried it once. She didn't like the fact that she was being told when to prove or cheer like a robot. But I mean, is it really even worth it? And apparently, the list of banned users and picks for the Thunderdome has been leaked as well. So I don't know.
More than that, it's a safety issue as well, because that scoreboard up there is huge. It's like bigger than normal like scoreboards, and it's like it hangs extremely low. So it's like if you can't, you need like a certain amount of time to get that, to test that out and stuff.
They don't even have enough people on the Thunderdome LED boards to fill every square. I've seen literally boards of repeated squares.
Right.
They can't even fill their,
They can't
fill
even
their
fill the
LED
Thunderdome.
boards.
Nope.
That's sad. That's sad. That's sad.
Right. I mean, they couldn't even fill their live audiences. They can't even. I mean, when they had live shows, they weren't even filling out full indoor stadiums. They basically just partitioned off part of Nationwide Arena, and it's back when they did have live shows, just because they just knew that they weren't able to book all those seats.
Let's be honest. When was the last time a WWE product sold out? Literally sold out every single
90s.
venue, especially the hard cam side.
Not the 90s. That's it.
There's going to come a point where Vince McMahon makes Michael Hayes buy a seat on the Thunderdome to fill spots.
Well, I mean, hey, Matthew McConaughey was on the Thunderdome at one point, really on Drew McIntyre.
Hey.
All
right.
Poor Drew McIntyre. What a champion under the worst circumstances and the worst era. I really do hope he gets that title back before WrestleMania.
I agree with that. Another rematch with Randy Orton is in the works. Another rematch with Brock Lesnar is possibly in the works.
I can see the Brock Lesnar.
Match with I mean, for all we know, we could see a match with let's see who else is on Raw.
Monday Night
with
Raw.
Bray could be in the works. We could possibly see Adam Cole in the UE in the next few months before WrestleMania go up to the main roster.
No.
What, you don't want to see Adam Cole versus Drew for a world title?
I don't want to see Adam Cole reduced to the 24/7 title.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't think it would be that bad. I really don't. I think he might, see a little bit less TV time. I think it could come to that, but I do not think he would be reduced to the 24/7 title.
Bottom line, I don't trust Vince with anything connected to black and gold, okay? That's all I have to say.
True.
All right.
Anywho, boys. This has been the first live stream on Twitch with all four of us. Gentlemen, before I do our send-off toast, I'd like to also raise a glass. Can, I should say. I'd like to raise one. We lost somebody very important in the world of Hollywood, in the world of actors and actresses, in regards to filmmaking, one of the greatest to have ever done it, to Sir Sean Connery, the original James Bond, the personification of gentleman. To Sean and his family, we wish them our condolences and wish them all the best in regards to, losing a loved one. But
also, rest in peace, Tracy Smothers.
Them too. Who's
WCW legend.
Gotcha.
And shout out to my new niece.
Hey, to those we loved, to those we've lost. But also, thank you all for tuning into the sauce. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If professional wrestling was a barbecue, you can count on us to bring the sauce. Night, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Have a good night, folks.
That's all.